Good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm joining you from New Orleans, Louisiana, and this is BRN AM for Wednesday, September 11th, 2019. Here are your headlines. Americans in debt. Are employer-based payroll loan advance features the future of paying off this debt and saving more for retirement? And blockchain technology. Is the cryptocurrency technology something that can be leveraged for saving more for retirement? As we all know, American consumer debt continues to grow. Now some employers are offering a new benefit called payroll loan advances. Is this the future to helping Americans pay off their debt and save more for retirement? Let's talk with Ann Ferguson. She's a reporter for the Wall Street Journal. So, we've talked numerous times on this show about consumer debt, and it's growing exponentially. And now companies are beginning to react. And I know you wrote a piece about that. So tell us a little about the thesis of the piece.
Yeah, exactly. I think companies are increasingly realizing that people really can't save for retirement until they get the rest of their financial house in order. And, I think companies had not really appreciated the extent to which a lot of their employees, a lot of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So I think that these efforts are an attempt to sort of address that. And I think they, have some greater resonance among employers who do have a lot of hourly workers.
In the article, you referenced Walmart in Pima County. Is it only large employers that are adopting this as a potential benefit?
I don't know, and I couldn't find data to that effect. I mean, just anecdotally, I interviewed, obviously, Walmart, which is the largest employer in America, I think, or largest company. But I also interviewed a healthcare provider that would probably be more classified as it's sort of a mid-sized company, maybe, or a small company. I think that there can be a range of companies that are interested.
So, Ann, is this benefit something that hurts retirement savings in the short run because all the resources are going towards paying off consumer debt?
That's a good question. And the people that I spoke to spoke about situations where people are running out and getting payday loans. They're trying to avoid situations where people are resorting to very high interest rate debt, and also resorting to like bank overdraft fees, which can be really expensive, especially if you have multiple. A woman I spoke to who works as a home health aide, she's paid $16 an hour. She uses this payroll advance feature to pay bills that come due before her next paycheck. And she feels like it saved her like around $80-90 a month on average in overdraft fees or late fees or whatever, bounce check fees. I think for a lot of these people, saving for retirement may not be something that's like really even on the agenda. And so, the effort is to kind of save them a lot of money in high interest charges, I think.
Obviously, there's a lot of concern about saving for retirement, but there's also concern about limited wage growth for many of these individuals who do have consumer debt. And we're not concerned about the high end, we're really concerned about the hourly workers, people who can't afford to pay off their debt, much less save for retirement. So is this something that you think that more companies, large and small, more organizations will adopt?
Well, this is definitely something that has caught, I don't know how, well, eBree has some statistics on how widespread it is, and I think that if I recall right from the article, about 12% of companies that eBree surveyed offer payroll loans that basically they're sort of lower interest rate loans than you could get through like a payday loan that are repaid through payroll. Another 12% of companies offer payroll advances, and then 4 to 6% of companies in each category, I can't remember which one was 4 and which was 6, plan to offer them. So this is definitely something that's growing. And to answer your prior question a little bit better, I think that also some of these features come with budgeting apps and other devices that are intended to help people get better control over their savings. And I think both their spending and their savings. And I think the immediate goal is more to help people try to build up some emergency cushion.
Last question, Ann. my thesis has always been we don't have a retirement crisis in America. We actually have a financial literacy crisis, and that we need to get more and more Americans at a younger age aware of budgeting and saving. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I think that paradoxically, as we've had like a very strong economy and low unemployment rate, it seems that the financial wellness movement has really kind of brought to the attention of employers the fact that a lot of people either are living paycheck to paycheck, and that to some extent could be a problem with wages and wage growth, but even people who make a decent amount of money sometimes have a lot of trouble and need to resort to these kinds of loans. So I think obviously we're seeing employers try to address this problem with financial literacy and financial management skills.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. And Tergesen, thanks so much for joining us. We'll look forward to tracking this issue and talking to you in the future.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much.
And when we come back, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, blockchain technology, and whether the underlying technology can be used to help Americans save for retirement. Stay tuned right here on BRN AM.
Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Welcome back. Many of us have been reading about cryptocurrency and especially Bitcoin, but can the underlying blockchain technology be used to help Americans save more for retirement? Joining me now to discuss this is the co-founder of Delphi Digital, Mr. Kevin Kelly. Hey, Kevin, welcome to the program. So before we get into whether or not the technology can be used for retirement, let's just take 30 seconds and define for the audience what is blockchain.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of kind of nuances to blockchain technology too. I mean, it kind of gets cast into this bucket, which is kind of Bitcoin and things of that nature. But I think one of the interesting, we'll get into this, what the interesting kind of use cases are for blockchain. There's also a lot of instances where there's these ambitious plans, and I think this kind of falls under that, where blockchain might not necessarily be the technology solution that they need. So you think about blockchain and what it really does. If you think about Bitcoin, the beauty in Bitcoin's blockchain and why often people say I'm bullish on blockchain but not Bitcoin, and we view it as the exact opposite, is that basically by being a decentralized kind of distributed ledger system, basically what Bitcoin did was the actual Bitcoin itself, right, that you can trade, that appreciates a ton in value, that you see on CNBC, the actual coin itself is built in to the network as this kind of incentive mechanism, right? So the people who are actually helping to maintain, secure, validate the network are actually being paid in Bitcoin, and so you kind of get this decentralized nature, and that's kind of what helps kind of bolster the security of this kind of what we call public blockchain network, right? When it comes to this type of solution, and you're talking about, can retirement actually help, or can blockchain actually help Americans save for retirement? I think it's a little bit different because basically what you're talking about here is taking files and records and putting them on the blockchain, which again, if there's no type of solution out there so far, or that it's very, very fragmented between whether it's providers or what have you, you certainly could use something like blockchain, like an enterprise type blockchain, which is more permissioned. You could have these employers actually, subscribe or put their data on the blockchain by running their own kind of validators, these types of things. You definitely could see some efficiencies gained. But again, blockchain technology is still pretty largely misunderstood. And you also potentially could run into the problems of, still very centralized systems that may be a bit of an iteration on top of what, currently exists today, but might not be the most kind of optimal solution.
So Kevin, is blockchain technology the best use case for the retirement industry and helping Americans save for retirement?
Yeah, no, exactly. And so again, I think, just given what, I know, and you obviously know a lot more about this subject than I do, but just given what I know about how fragmented the database or the tracking of people's 401k plans or retirement savings plans. And again, that portability over to, a new employer, or again, having a lull where you leave an employer, almost kind of forget that you have that 401k savings sitting around and then trying to roll it over. I completely understand how that process is very fragmented and could certainly benefit from a lot of efficiencies. Where blockchain, again, if you had an enterprise blockchain and you had all these kind of providers sign up onto the same, or I should say sign up, but are basically permissioned to write to the same enterprise blockchain network. You could definitely have a more kind of centralized database for this type of information that would be queryable by just about anybody who wanted to find the information. That's the other difficult thing too, is that there's a lot of privacy solutions you could build into an enterprise blockchain that would still make it, your user data, for example, would be pretty private, so people wouldn't be able to go in and actually identify, you as the individual and link that to exactly what your account is or what your investments are. But again, I think it's a very different use case than what you would think about from a public, Bitcoin type blockchain network.
So Kevin, let's define for the audience what an enterprise blockchain actually is.
Right, and the beauty of it is you could kind of pick and choose, right, depending on what you wanted, what the flexibility you wanted. So you could have one that was specifically for, let's say, Fidelity, and to your point, you could have the advisors and everybody kind of subscribe to that. Or you could actually build out a much larger enterprise. And when I say enterprise blockchain, I'm really talking about just permission blockchain, right? So permission versus permissionless. Permissionless is kind of Bitcoin, what I explained earlier. Permission being there's actual kind of centralized entities that are able to allow or permission people to write or read from said blockchain. And so you could actually have a large one where you have the credentials and the fidelities all kind of on the same type of permission blockchain. And from there, they can permission people depending on who their kind of target clients are to be able to query this or be able to use that data. So it's malleable in that sense, where you could have depending on what the proper use case was for each, whether it's a company specific one or a large one for the entire industry. That is the beauty and kind of the flexibility of an enterprise type solution. Just the big thing to kind of keep in mind is that when you think about what the big blockchain use cases are and what's fascinating about something like, again, permissionless blockchains like Bitcoin, that decentralized kind of censorship resistant nature you wouldn't get with a permission system, because again, you have these more kind of centralized entities that are identified as, basically the entities that would run or monitor or, update and secure that system.
Thanks, Kevin. And switching gears, there's been a lot of talk about cryptocurrency. Do you see cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ripple, and others being used in retirement plans and also IRAs in the near future?
Near future, it depends on what your timeline is for near future. I certainly see it in the next, let's call it 18 to 24 months. I think the big kind of hurdle you have to get over now is there aren't very many, if any, investment vehicles in which you can actually have more kind of retail participants get into, right? So that's why there's a ton of kind of scrutiny and debate over whether a Bitcoin ETF will be approved. Because again, when you think about, prior examples of whether it's emerging market equities or, gold, even for example, back in the early 2000s, when you had these vehicles like ETFs get approved, the accessibility to something like Bitcoin now would be, much more kind of broad scale than, how it is today, just given all the nuances it takes to actually buy, purchase, store Bitcoin. So I do think that, in the next 18 to 24 months, I think we do get a regulatory approved, SEC stamped Bitcoin ETF, and then how that kind of makes its way into retirement plans or 401k options is certainly left to be seen. But I think it's not crazy to think that some people will have a small allocation of their 401k over the next maybe 2-3 years to Bitcoin.
We're going to have to leave it there. Kevin Kelly, co-founder of Delphi Digital, thanks so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well, folks, that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Hope it was helpful. Hey, have a financial topic or someone of interest that you think we should interview? Drop us a line. And don't forget, check out the latest news in today's edition of The Morning Pulse. And until tomorrow, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.